Welcome to Avant-Garde Entrepreneur. I am so glad you're here today with me, my friend. The entrepreneurial journey is just that, a journey. It is circular and cyclical all at once. No matter where we are in our entrepreneurial journey, whether that's thinking of starting a business or having tremendous success, or in the messy middle where it's not quite so much fun anymore, or even if you are considering an exit. There's always an opportunity to reset your mind, your values, or your habits, and sometimes all of them. That's why I say it's circular and cyclical. I've done this many times in my journey, and my most recent reset began about 3 months ago. And as serendipity would have it, about a month into my reset, which I didn't realize was a reset at the time, I happened to be reading this book. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. It's called Grace and Grit: Becoming a Confident Entrepreneur by Jennifer Johnson. It's a small book, 100 pages. It is full of what I would say are simple concepts, and they are packed with wisdom by someone who has been there, done that, and has the battle scars to prove it. And I thought, I must introduce her to you and you to her. So today I'm super excited to introduce you to Jennifer Johnson. Jennifer is the founder of True Fashionistas. She's a renowned small business coach who empowers small businesses to achieve their goals without sacrificing their well-being. And how important is that? Once a national model and actress, Jennifer pivoted to build a multi-million-dollar resale business with True Fashionistas, which is the largest lifestyle resale store in Florida, which is a state in the US where I am from. Jennifer's expertise has landed her features on countless TV shows and national stages. She really, really knows the struggle of juggling business growth, personal branding, and a life that you love, just like you do. That's why she's built a roadmap for success, the confident entrepreneur. Now, Jennifer is a coach, the author of the Amazon best-selling book, Grace and Grit: Becoming a Confident Entrepreneur, and the host of the Confident Entrepreneur podcast. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here with us today.
I am excited to be here.
Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about your early career, your life, what it was like growing up for you?
So I grew up the second oldest of six siblings on a farm in Minnesota. Tiny town, 750 people. You literally drove by, you'd blink, you'd miss it. I did not love growing up on a farm. I wanted to be in the big city. I just had loftier goals for myself. And we grew up very poor. We didn't have money. And I would go garage sailing with my grandma on Saturdays to find new to me clothes, which is kind of a precursor to why I started my resale business. But strong foundation, family, grew up Catholic, doing all the things, and had a really strong family, but just wanted something different for myself. And right out of high school, I had the opportunity to go to college to study broadcast journalism because I was going to be that anchor that you see on.
Yes.
Still to this day, that is something that I would embrace wholly and completely. But as luck would have it, it was not going to be my path. I actually gave that up for an abusive boyfriend who wanted the control and made a lot of threats that if I went to school, this would happen or that would happen. So did not go to school for that. About a year later, I met my husband and went back to school. Took me 7 years, but I graduated with my AA degree after 7 years. And having worked for someone and having started a business without that degree, finally graduated, got the degree, and my twins were born the next year. So you can imagine I didn't do anything with that, with going back to school and finishing. And raised my kids, ran my first business that I created, which is a wedding and event planning business and a bridal shop. Did that for 12 years until we sold that and moved to Florida.
That's a fabulous foundation. We have the entrepreneurs that listen, a lot of them come from farming backgrounds or rural backgrounds where there is a high level of expectation for what they do. with their lives. Many people have experienced abuse in their homes. And when I read a lot of your story, I thought, wow, there's a lot of people in the world who can really relate to this, and it's not really talked about that
Hmm.
much. One of the things that I realized that the listeners probably need to understand is what is a lifestyle resale store?
So back when I moved to Florida 16, almost 17 years ago, I had an idea because I hadn't sold my bridal shop and wedding and event planning business at that time. I actually ran it absentee. It was kind of at the middle, I would say, the messy middle of the downturn of our economy. We were going through a great recession at the time, 2008, 2009. And I just had this idea. I'm like, nothing exists in my community that is resale, is consignment, which means people bring their stuff to us to sell. It's not donated. They actually get the money when it sells. So customers bring their merchandise in. And the realm of lifestyle means that we do furniture and home decor and clothing and bags and shoes and that kind of thing. So it kind of melds both things together. Think of like Target. That's a lifestyle store. And we're combining all of the elements together and it's all resale.
I'm not sure if the listeners realize that this kind of thing happens in America because many of the entrepreneurs that there's such a focus among social businesses on sustainability,
Mhm.
upcycling, and doing as much as we can with what we have and making the most without creating more of a drain on our environment. So I love the concept of what you're doing. And I love for people to know that this exists here and that it's for more than just clothes. It's for an entire home.
Exactly. And it's a really important part because back when we started it, that wasn't the reason. But as we've gone on, it's kind of become a mission. Our tagline is going green the designer way
Oh, I love that.
because we're reducing, we're reusing, we're recycling, we're promoting that circular economy, is what we call it. You buy it, you may not like it. You're not going to throw it in the landfill. You're going to bring it in and we're going to try to sell it. Anything that we can't sell, we actually donate to a local charity. Then they try to sell it in their store. So it doesn't go to waste. There's always someone out there for something.
Someone needs it all the time.
It's a great concept.
Yeah, it is. You have definitely taken it to the next level. It's amazing. Obviously, living with grace and grit, it means a lot to you if it is
Mhm.
the title of your book. So, for we also, as you know, we have an international audience. I think
Mhm.
a lot of people, even if English is their second language, understand grace, but they might not understand grit as much. So,
Sure.
can you tell us in your words what it means to live with grace and grit?
So grace can mean many things to many people. For me, it means that I want to live my life how I want to be remembered. And and incidentally, when I work with entrepreneurs, it's one of the things that I work with them on is core values. And that's kind of the base for the book. And one of the questions that I have all of my students work on is, what would you want to be known for? And I want to be known as somebody who lived with grace. And how that looks for me is I want to be kind. I want to be gentle. I want to be helpful. All of those things. And I don't try hard to do those things because it's who I am. And that's kind of the essence of grace. It's whatever you embody, whatever you are, is what you exude and what comes easily to you. It can also be looked at, and how I also look at it is giving yourself grace. Okay. We don't have to be everything to everybody. If you come from a place of understanding that and being at peace with that, you're going to be far better off in everything that you do because the other parts naturally happen then. And it's a hard thing to grasp and a hard thing to understand sometimes. But once you get it, once you understand that concept, a light bulb goes on and you're not as hard on yourself because it's the influences from the outside that are coming at you that make you feel a certain way sometimes. And if you are at peace with that, that helps you live with grace. That helps you live is that, Putting it in terms of, you'll see people on TV, and I'm going to just cite Jennifer Aniston because she's the first person that came to my mind. She's a TV actress here in the United States, well known for Friends. When you see her, she looks like she's completely put together. She's always put together. Her hair looks great, but she looks like she's done it effortlessly, like it was nothing. That's what I mean. That's the tangible explanation of grace.
That's a wonderful explanation. And I think we all need a reminder to not be so hard on ourselves. I think we tend to assume that even though we might be graceful with others and give others permission, we don't give ourselves that permission enough.
We are always going to be our worst critic. I'm sure you've heard that a million times, but we will be, because, what expectations do we have to live up to? It's really what's in here.
Yeah. It's interesting. Just a few days ago, I found myself shoulding myself, shoulda. And I thought, if my best friend was coming to me with this, what would I suggest they do? And it's amazing how that shift, it just put this ease over me. And I realized how critical and how hard I was being on myself. And I know
Right.
better. And I still do it every now and then.
We're human, really.
Yeah.
We're human. And the thing is if you're doing something to yourself, yes, put yourself in someone else's shoe. Would you do that to someone else, what you're doing to yourself? No, because you would say that's cruel and unusual punishment.
Yes.
Because that's how hard we are on ourselves.
Yeah. So, how about grit to an international audience? How do you explain this beautiful concept?
Really, when you boil it all down, it just means going for it. Whatever it is you have in here or you have in here and you want it, you go for it. And that grit means you're grinding it out every day. You're passing through those obstacles. You see an obstacle, you're like, meh, it's a challenge. I can get past that. It's finding your way around and navigating the challenges to get to where it is that you want to be. Listen, I said at the beginning that I didn't finish college. First of all, I didn't even go, right? Until a year later, until my husband convinced me to. And I went to school, got my AA, and then had my kids. Okay. So some people would have raised their hands and went, I'm done. I don't need that. I have a business. I created a business. I didn't need to do any of that. But me, with the grit that I have, I am doing this and I'm doing it for me because it's in here. I went back to school 2 years ago because my twins graduated high school. And I'm like, I'm doing this. Now it's my time. And I just took my last class. It was statistics.
Wow.
I've said all my life, oh, I'm not a numbers person. And I've stopped saying that to myself. But I got a B in my statistics class.
Wow. Congratulations.
And so I get my diploma in October, but I'm actually graduating, walking across the stage in December. And I remember someone looking at me going, "You're walking across the stage?" I said, "Yes, I am, because I earned this. I earned that spot." And so I don't just talk about grit, I model it for other people. I model it for myself. Remember when, you can do it. So it's doing the thing. It's doing the things that you want to do. At the end of the day, that's what it is.
Great explanation. I'd love to talk about knowing your core values. That's how you kind of kick the book off with that.
Right.
And you mentioned a little bit earlier, I don't want to give you away your secret sauce for coaching, but you did mention about when you're talking to your students about core values, realizing how they want to be known. Is there another step if someone has not identified their core values yet?
Sure.
Is there a process or a way that they can get started?
Sure. So I've actually developed a series of questions, and I usually do it in a workshop. I'll give you a few of the questions that I ask. We go through it in a series of in a workshop, and we go through a list of questions. There's 9 questions typically on the list. We may throw in a few here and other ones, but typically it's 9. And a few of the questions are, what do you want to be known for? Right? That's a big one. Here's how that frames what your core values are. So today, here and now, I may not be known how I want to be known when I'm no longer in this world. If I want to be known as the kind of person who is honest, right? You may not find yourself being honest all the time. You can look at yourself and go, hmm, if that's how I want to be known, how am I going to change how I'm living to live up to that when I'm no longer here? It gives you a roadmap, it gives you a path because your core values are your North Star. They're your guiding light. They point you in the direction that you should be going. What do you want to be known for is a huge one because it helps you step back and look at everything. It helps you look at how other people see you right now. And if they don't see you how you want to be seen, then you know what you have to do. Another one is, what are the things that you like celebrating? And we're not talking birthdays, anniversaries, that kind of thing. Like, what are the wins in your life that excite you? Is it that you get to have a day with your family? Or is it when you get to sit down and read a book? Which, reading the book could be that you always want to be learning something, you enjoy learning. And the family part, maybe you enjoy family, maybe family time and connection is really what your core value is. So the things that make you happy, that make you want to celebrate. The other end of the continuum on that is, what are the things that frustrate you? What is it that really annoys you? For me, it's somebody that lies. I want honesty. And if you look at the cause, the thing that makes you upset or angry, that more often than not is going to lead you to a value that's being squashed in the moment.
Mhm.
So, if you're like, why do I hate somebody that when they lie to me? Why do I not like that? Well, because I value integrity, honesty. I want people to be real with me. So it's a way of looking at things like the opposite. If I don't like it when people are lying to me, what is the opposite of lying? Well, it's the honest. It's honesty. And it helps you dig deep and find that. So asking simple questions, yet profound, will get you to really what your core values are. The big thing is your core values can change over time because we are living, breathing individuals. It's not something that's written in paper, you know, in permanent ink. Over time, you can add to that list. I usually see people adding more than subtracting things as you're going in, through life. Things come up and you're like, oh, I never really thought of that, but that's really important to me. So it's a series of questions is what we go through to help you really find what your core values are. And it's not something that can always be done in one session. It's ongoing. They take homework home with them. And it's just an ongoing process for people typically.
Those are the great rule of thumb questions to start with. And I really like the idea of sometimes it is hard for you to identify something that you value. Sometimes people might feel like it's too lofty, or the example, what does integrity really mean? But looking at the opposite of what you don't want, what you want least, can help
Exactly.
you. I can see that being a really valuable tool.
It's just a different way to look at it because if you just look at it linear, that's hard sometimes. Oh, I value people that are honest.
Yeah.
Okay, what does that look like?
Mhm.
And what does it look like when you don't feel that?
The thing that hooked me in your book was, it was probably about 6 years ago, was the first time I ever sat down and wrote out my values and really did a deep dive into what they were. And
Mhm.
when I look at what they were slash are, they were pretty much had been consistent themes through my whole life up to that point. These were the things I valued: solitude and freedom. I always wanted to be alone as much as I could. And I didn't want to be pinned down by anyone or anything. So I thought that that's just what my values were. And I mentioned it in the intro that I didn't realize a reset was coming. And it was one day I had your book had just come in the by Amazon. So I had my journal and your book, and I was going to go and journal and then dive into your book. So I was journaling about what was going on. And it was that moment of pause where, okay, I've written enough, thought enough, put in the journal down, and picked up your book. And I normally start at the very beginning, but I happened to open up a couple pages in. And what I had just written in my journal was, is it possible that my values are changing? I happened to open it up to page 15 where it says, your values are dynamic. They can evolve and change.
Right? Oh, that's funny. Oh my
This
gosh.
is the book I'm reading
Serendipitous.
now. Yes, serendipity.
Sign from above.
Yes, it was. So for young people or for people who have even been in your work for a while, are there signs or how does someone understand if their values are changing or shifting so that they don't get blindsided and feel like, why am I'm living by my values? What is happening?
From just personal experience, it just happens. And you're going to know. Here's the thing sometimes. Sometimes you don't see things happening, you see it from the past. You look back and go, what was that moment trying to teach me? So for me, it wasn't, nothing fell from the sky. There were no light bulbs.
Yeah.
There were no neon signs. There was nothing. I just really thought about it and I was more in tune to it. Yeah, there was this, you may know what it's called. I want to call it the RAS system, the reticular activation system.
Yes.
So what that means is I see a red car on the road or I'm looking at a certain type of car, then I see them everywhere. Okay. When you are introduced to the concept of core values or you're thinking, somehow you read about them, you're thinking about them, then it becomes more aware to you're more aware to them or
Mhm.
about them. And that's when you open it up and you're open about it, that things like that happen. So I wouldn't say that, you know, anything in particular. It's just I'm paying more attention to things that happen.
Mhm.
And then I ask myself those questions. Why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel this way around this? Oh, that's right. That's part of me. That's my core value. I really truly believe this. Oh, that's a new one. It may be more than one situation.
Mhm.
Maybe it has to hit you over the head more than once because
Yeah.
how many of us have to do that? Because a lot of times when you sit back and think about things that have happened in your life and you go, "Oh my gosh, that's right. That happened to me and that happened to me and I felt the same way." So if you can, when you're struck with that feeling of why am I feeling this way? Think back to things in your past. Have you had things in your past that were similar or brought up similar questions? That's going to lead you down that path as to what that core value actually is.
It's great advice. So if we don't realize it at the time, that's probably normal.
It's very normal.
One of the values that you talk about in the book that is your personal value is that of pink space. We talk about white space on our calendars,
Yes.
but I love pink space so much because to me, it's when I read your words about it, it embodies not just space on a calendar, it involves space in life. So can you talk a little bit about pink space, what it means to you?
Pink space could be somebody else's white space. I choose to have it pink space, my favorite color. But for me, there's a lot of times that it showed up in my life. Again, this is another looking back kind of moment. And the first time I feel like it showed up in my life was when I was pregnant with my twins. I was on bed rest most of my pregnancy and not my cup of tea. Like I hit the ground running every morning, 5:30 a.m. Like I am moving all the time. And I had to sit with not being busy. I had to sit with my thoughts, which was uncomfortable. I had to sit in quiet. And I talk about in the book how I had to slow down to speed up. For me, it was that pink space allowed me that time to sit and to be, to realize that everything I was doing over here and trying to create was going to happen at some point. It just wasn't going to be on my time. It wasn't about me. It was about God's time. And nothing that I could do was going to change that because it wasn't up to me. And then fast forward into my life later during COVID, we had our store, and we had a whole team. a large team, and there was something off, but I could never really put my finger on it. And I couldn't put my finger on it because what was I doing every single day? I had my head down and I was working in my business. When we were given the space of COVID to step back, see what was going on, assess, and just be, I could see it. I could see it clearer than I would ever have been able to see it. And that was the first time I feel like it presented it to myself as far as pink space in the here and now. So that's an example of it in real time. And the other was an example of it looking back. And I realized at that time, what I had to do coming out of COVID was I fired everyone. They didn't line up with the core values of the company. They were not all of the things that I had in here. They had to go. And that's what we did. And we started all over with a new staff. Hard, very hard to do. But that pink space allows you to step back and sit in it for a while. It allows you to see things for what they are. And it just gives you time. It gives you time to process, review, and make a plan. And I think that is what increases your momentum forward, not the continually going, 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 going. You need some of that. Step back into your pink space, take some time, look at the landscape, and then assess.
What is your advice for people who if they have been running on autopilot, running 90 miles an hour, and they don't have something that forces them to stop? In your case, at first, it was your potentially your life and your twins' lives at stake, and then COVID was obviously what it was.
Right.
What is your advice or your tips for people to intentionally add in pink space to their lives?
We all know that when you don't add things to your calendar, when they're not on your calendar, they don't get done. What I started was this thing called Founders Time. Fridays, I only schedule things for me, the things that I want to do. So I typically don't do podcasting. I don't do anything that, is critical to my business on Fridays unless I want to. And baked into there is Founders Time. And that can be however it looks for you, whether that's journaling. You could have pink space around journaling. Totally fine. Meditation, you can have pink space around meditation. Maybe for you, it's going for a walk or working out, doing yoga. Whatever it is, bake that founder's time into your schedule, or put it on your schedule so it actually happens. That's the way to force yourself to get into that rhythm at least once a week.
Great advice. Make an appointment for your most valuable resource.
Exactly.
Yourself. Yes.
Exactly.
Leadership can be so lonely for all of us. Obviously, you have experienced it a great deal in your career. Much of our audience are working in developing countries where a lot of the people that they might hire or who volunteer for their organizations, they don't have their basic needs met yet. They're still working on survival. Housing might not be secure. Food is certainly not secure. And so people can often, they can see great potential in people who come into their organization, but then they leave. And it's not necessarily because they're bad people. It's because their basic needs haven't been met yet. One of the things that you talk about, one of your values, is assuming positive intent for people. And one of the questions that you ask that I really like is, what is the most generous explanation for the other person's behavior? Can you give us an example of how this has worked out for you?
Assuming positive intent. I'm just going to start there. It's a double-edged sword because yes, you can be too trusting sometimes, and other times not enough. So you have to kind of go with what's in your gut. I could give an example of an employee that I had. I was thinking, the whole time, oh my gosh, they're going to quit. They're going to quit. And this is a more recent thing. Actually, it happened after my book was published, and it sticks in my head. And it weighed on me because I'm like, is it something that we're doing? And all of a sudden she quit. She just said, I'm done. and she quit. And we were left, or I was left thinking, was it something that we did? Like, we have no idea. And I just assumed the positive intent that she had something going on in her life. Because if I were to go on the other end of the continuum, it would be like, oh my gosh, panic mode. We did something bad. Well, blah, 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 blah. All these things that we make up in our head, which 98% of the time prove themselves to be false. They're just false narratives, false things that we're telling ourselves because that's how we're wired. And there's always a story. There's always a story in every situation, whether it's a good story, bad story, indifferent. There's always a story. And it's your job to figure out what that story is. Come to find out, she left because she had cancer.
Oh gosh.
But that's not where I went.
Mm.
I went immediately for a second to, what do we do? And then I took the time, reframed it, and went, okay, there's got to be a story. Assume positive intent. There was positive intent there. She just didn't know that she should share it, didn't want to share it. So that's why, immediately you can have that reaction. That is human. That is normal to be like, what did we do wrong? But then step into the place of, there's a story. There's always a story. And what is the positive intent here? So the positive thing of all of that is just she's better and she's actually coming back in 2 months. So, but again, always assume positive intent. Trust, but verify. I trust you, but I'm going to verify it, because then that protects you as well.
I can see that it makes us feel like we're not victims when we put it on ourselves too. Well, it was my responsibility to verify that.
Right.
Great advice. Another value that you talk about is the value of laughing and having fun. And that you talk about family and friends being the cornerstone of our happiness. I will admit that much of my life, I did not adhere to this. I grew up in an amazing home, and something happened in my 20s, and I just got in this career path and thought that this was that. And there were many times that I chose my career over my family. I think it started very gradually. It started when I was in college and I had to work, I had to make money. So I was sliding in for holidays at the last minute, leaving early. But then what started as a financial necessity just became a habit. And it's something that I've adjusted over the years, but it is still something that I have to be very mindful of. Can you talk about how that has worked out in your life? Was this something that did you ever find that you were putting your family and friends on the back burner, or is this something that you've not done that you realize, wow, this is something that makes me different?
I have done that plenty. I have put them on the back burner plenty. And then you typically have a life event that turns on the light bulb and you go, oh, wow, I was missing this all along. This was the missing piece, the key. And I think it's very human, very common, because we're go-getters. You want what you want and you go for it and you put your blinders on and you just do. And you're thinking everything else is going to fall in place where it should. And I think once you become really intentional about, hey, well, I still feel like there's something missing. What is it? And you go on that search. For me, it led me to that. And that was my missing piece.
Mm.
And it wasn't just one thing, it was a series of health scares, not just for me, but family members. Because that's the number one thing I feel like when there's a health scare in your family or with your friends, that's when you sit up and you take notice. And I don't think that is by coincidence. I don't. I feel like God is trying to tell you something. Slow down. Look at those people around you because they're important to you. And that's kind of how it came about for me. It was, again, being intentional and paying attention in the moments where these things were coming at me or hitting me. And it was like, wow, Again, there was no neon sign. There was no, club that hit me over the
Mhm.
head. But I came to the realization that, wow, this is really important. And that is the missing piece a lot of the time because it gives you that connection.
Mhm.
It gives you that human connection, which, let's face it, as we're on our phones and our watches and our computer screens, that's what we're really at the very basic level, what we're missing a lot of the times.
That grounding force. It reminds us in a good way of who we are. Sometimes our family can drag us to things that we don't want to be remembered by.
I have stories, right?
So, Jennifer, I know that your daughter has gone off to college. So, you have a lot of change in your home now. What is your why, especially as your children are getting older? What's your why? What keeps you going on the tough days?
Oh my gosh. I just think for me, I want to be a symbol to them. Oh, it's gonna make me cry. Oh, a symbol to them that you're never a victim. You should never be a victim. Good things come out of bad things. It can make you stronger, and it will make you stronger if you allow it to not become a victim of your circumstances. And I want to model that not just for my kid, but for anybody else around me, because you're always an influence to someone. And it may be the most unexpecting person that comes up to you and says, "You made a difference in my life. You showed me that just because this happened to you didn't mean you ended up over there. You ended up over here." And I think that's my ultimate why, is because I want people, not just my family, but people in general, to know that you can do hard things, and out of hard things come beautiful things. Don't let your past define you.
Well, I am so grateful, Jennifer, that you invested your heart and your energy in your book and getting your stories out because I can tell that a lot of people are going to benefit from your why in helping people to realize that they're not a victim of their circumstance and to be able to make the most good out of the most bad. And you absolutely embody that.
Thank you.
So Jennifer, if people want to connect with you, I know you have a busy coaching schedule, but how do people follow your work or how do they find you or connect with you?
They can go to my website first and foremost. That's Jennifer Ann with ANN Johnson.com. I'm also on Facebook, Jennifer Ann Johnson, Instagram, Jennifer Ann Johnson, and on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll put all those in the show notes. And I just want to give a little a dedication from Jennifer's book. She says, to the bold and the brave, to the dreamers and the doers, the ones who dare to step outside the box and chase their dreams, this book is for you. And I can say that everyone in this audience falls into that. And Jennifer, thank you for creating this book and dedicating it to wonderful people. And thank you for living the life that you've lived and modeling all these incredible values and way of life.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me share this with your audience.
Welcome.